Guess what day it is? Today is Wednesday, which means it's hump day, which means we got a Sunday school lesson ready for you. As you know, this is Women's Month, and all this month we will be talking about some great women of the Bible who had to fight for their marriage, fight for their family. And this one is going to be fight for your children. And our lesson today is let go and let God. Now, let me say this before I even get started, because I'm going to be teaching to myself. You can just overhear. But it won't be about me fighting for my children, since I don't have any children. I got a lot of children, but none by birth. But perhaps you might have given birth to anger, jealousy, bad temper. God is saying, let go and let him take care of it. In fact, that is what faith is. If somebody says, what is faith to you? You can easily say, let go and let God. Let God what? Let God take care of it. And so this is what our lesson is about today. We will talk about, because we've said before, all of us got flaws, because we're not perfect. We are not flawless, meaning we do not have flaws, because yes, we do. Even though we are saved, on our way to heaven anyhow. That's the problem. We on our way anyhow. But we are flawless because of faith. So after studying the lesson, I hope that you will see and know that we don't have to let our situations dictate to us how to raise our children. But by faith, we need to let it go and let God take charge. All right? Now, but we're talking about faith. Faith, flawless by faith. What is faith? I said, we could give that definition, let go and let God. King James 11:1 says, that's the faith verse. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And what we do, we use that for our definition for faith. But let me give you this fact. The Bible never defines faith. That's what I said. But it gives demonstrations of faith for us to see. So, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Let's dissect that. You remember, let's go back up into Genesis, when God said to Moses, I want you to build an ark because it's going to rain and there's going to be a flood. Noah, if I said Moses earlier, correct me, but Noah said, all right, but Noah had never seen a flood, didn't know what an ark was, did not even know what rain was, because the plants, the vegetables, the grass, everything was water coming up, not coming down. So the dew and stuff was really the thing that watered everything. So he had no idea what rain was or is. Yes, we do. But it said by faith. So he didn't know what rain was, a flood was, and definitely not an ark. But by faith, Moses, Noah, keep saying Moses, because the lesson is on Moses, that's what it is. He believed God. And so the evidence that he believed God was he started building the ark. So, in other words, let's look at Hebrew 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. It did not say it's hard to please him. It says it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must. And you can highlight that in your Bible. You can underline it in your Bible. But that's one of the mustness of a Christian. We must believe that he is and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Not just off and on, but diligently seek him. So we must believe that he is. If God said it, we must believe that he is. Now, when I came in to the studio and sat down in this chair, I didn't hedge my way in. I just came on in and sat down because I believed that the chair would hold me. And that's what we got to do, my sisters and brothers, when it comes to God. We must believe he said it, he'll do it, his track record proves it, and so we should give evidence that we believe him. Now, let me give you a little few facts about faith. I've already said one, the Bible never defines faith, but gives demonstrations of faith for us to see. In fact, and I may read this at the end, I put my hands on something that I wrote 35 years ago about faith, and it's still true and it's still good today. But let's go on. It is faith that keeps the faithful going. Oh, you don't miss that, don't miss that, don't miss that. It is the faith, our belief in this age where the coronavirus seems to be sweeping. It is faith that keeps the faithful going. Wash your hands, do things right, but I am not. Here it is. I'm just going to throw it out there and say, I'm not going to let it stop me from making my way, pressing my way to church. I just can't do that because I believe that God is, and he was the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So faith is keeping the faithful going no matter what the environment or the situation. So come what may, day by day, I'm going to believe that God said, I got it. There it is. There it is. Now, it is faith that finds a way to witness for the Lord, no matter the circumstances. I don't know. See, and a Christian should never, somebody say, well, how are you doing? A Christian should never answer, well, under the circumstances, I'm doing pretty good. You shouldn't be under the circumstances. Put the circumstances under you. I'm not under no circumstance. I'm under the blood. I'm under his promises. So let go and let God. Well, look, so what makes Christians uniquely different from all other religions? What makes Christians uniquely different? Or Christianity uniquely different from all other religions? Well, first of all, Christianity is not a religion. It's a relationship. It's a way of life. But since we're using it that way, let's go on. Is what makes us different than any other religion? It's our faith. Oh, you got to get that. It's our faith. According, let me just go on and hit it. According to what God has revealed of himself through his word, Christians believe that he is omnipotent. He is an omnipotent God that can and will do anything and everything. Oh, you got to get this. You got to get this. You got to get this. I may have to get up and walk around. The cameraman may have to get up and get behind the camera. I may get up and walk around because we believe that God is omnipotent, all-powerful, and God can and will do anything and everything necessary for his people. Whoa, drop the mic on that. We have to believe that. And he will do it for his people and for his kingdom to come. You got it? Nothing is impossible for him should he desire to perform it. Whoa. You see, the Hebrew boys said it. When they heated up the furnace, over in Daniel chapter 3. Chapter 3. And they built the furnace, and everybody, when the horn blew and the music started playing, everybody was supposed to bow down to this 90-foot statue. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow. And the king come to them furious. And their reply was, he said, look, we're going to do this one more time, give you a chance to bow. And they said, oh, king, very respectful, live forever. But the God we serve, we cannot bow. We believe, listen to what they said, we believe that he will deliver us. But even if he don't, not that he can't, but even if he doesn't, if it's not his will, still won't bow. And that's the kind of faith that we've got to have in this day and age. I don't care what comes or go. I don't care who's in the White House, the State House, the courthouse, the outhouse. We believe that everything is still under the control of God. Even this coronavirus, I believe it. I believe it. I believe what I was taught as a young child. God will take care of me. So, that's faith. We believe he is an omniscient God that both can and does know everything and anything, that nothing, oh, you got to get this, nothing can be hid from him, even though it occurs in the darkest of places and behind closed doors. Because here it is, God can see in the dark as well as he can in the light. Woo. Darkness hides from him. Darkness can't hinder him. Darkness hides from him. Because see, when he shows up, he's light. When he said, let there be light, darkness had to flee. Because light came in. And here's another thing. He can see around the corners. I can't see around the corner. I can't see. We got the door closed. I can't see if anybody's standing outside. But, and I go to bed with that in mind every night. I don't know who or what might be outside. You know, on my cell, I got this neighborhood watch or something other. And they always light up, and, you know, there's somebody on the porch and somebody's around. And I look at that, I say, okay, fine. I don't get involved in that because I know who watches over me. So I go on up to the stairs and go and get in the bed, go to sleep. Because I know who's watching over me. And if it's necessary for me to wake up, he wakes me up. Woo, God Almighty. I wish you all could get there. Now, and here's another thing. He's omniscient, so he even knows what's in the heart of a person. You know, we love to say, well, you see, it's in my heart. Yeah, and he knows what's in your heart because he will look and say, what's that in your heart? All right? So he knows the hearts and the mind of a person. So you cannot hide anything from him. Then we believe he's omnipresent. He's an omnipresent God whose presence can be detected and felt at all places, at all times, to anybody and everybody to the same extent. That's what we believe. That's what we believe. So now let's look into the lesson, because probably most of my time is probably already up because but if you don't get anything else, get that. He's omnipresent, he's omniscient, and he's omnipotent. And you cannot please God. Now, in other words, let me see. Okay, let's see, I got this suit on. No, okay, I went to the store the other day. After this Daniel fast, I need to go to the store. I went to the store. Now, I got my groceries. I didn't go up there and look at them and let them look at me and that was going to pay the bill. Oh, no. All the looks in the world ain't going to do that for you. I had to give them money or get the debit card and close the transaction. Otherwise, I could not get my groceries. My sisters and brothers, that's the way it operates with God. You want something for him? The medium that will cause the transaction is your faith. Why would he give it to you if you don't believe he's got it in the first place? So you want to close the transaction? By faith. You must do it by faith. Well, let's look into the lesson. Exodus chapter 1. Start at verse 8. A new king who had not known Joseph came to power in Egypt. He said to his people, look, the Israelite people are more numerous and powerful than we are. Let us deal shrewdly with them. That's key. Otherwise, they will multiply us further, and if war breaks out, they may join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So, the Egyptians assigned taskmasters over the Israelites to oppress them with forced labor. But the more they oppressed them, the more they multiplied and spread, so that the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. And so it is with believers and Christians. The more that we are oppressed, the stronger we are to become, and the more that we multiply and spread so that the word of God might be known. Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah and the other Puah, when you help the Hebrew women give birth, observe them as they deliver. If the child is a son, kill him. If it's a daughter, she may live. Now let's look at the circumstances. The Egyptians' attitude toward the Israelites showed that they were scared of the Israelites. They were scared of the Israelites. Now see, let me just stop here. Many times we are scared of people, are scared of a situation, and the situation is fearful of us. Now, notice, because when they get out of Egypt and God says they have the promised land, they are going to get to the promised land. They're going to send in the spies, and 10 bring back a bad report and 2 bring back a good report. And they were fearful. The Israelites were fearful because 10 of them said, yeah, the land is like God said. It's flowing with milk and honey, but there are giants in the land. It's after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness because God became angry and said, okay, you don't want to go in, wander in the wilderness. And they did for 40 years. Only to discover once they got into the promised land, the giants were, here's what they said. They said, we look like grasshoppers in their sight. They are giants. So when the grasshoppers, the Israelites, got into the promised land, that's when they found out that the giants were afraid of the grasshoppers. So what you are fearful about may be fearful of you. You're the one that need to go in and take up and possess the land because God said, I'm going to give it to you. God can't lie. But you can only get it, how? By faith. So, they were scared of the Israelites. So they dealt shrewdly with the Israelites. And what they did, they forced them into slavery. They forced slavery upon them. And then, if that wasn't enough, all babies, male babies, were to be slain. At birth. We're going to come back. Let's go to Exodus chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Now, a man from the family of Levi married a Levite woman. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. And that's one of the keys. I don't want you to run past that too quick. Parents, mothers, fathers, you need to hide your children from some stuff. That's why children have parents, because parents need to look out for their child, need to hide their child from the drug dealers, from the gangs, from the violence in the neighborhood, from a whole lot of stuff. But you need to watch out for you. You don't need to go over to the school with your house slippers on and your hair all rolled up, ready to beat up the teacher because the teacher you think didn't say the right thing to your child. You need to discipline your child. Because we're going to come back to that point again later, because I got it in the notes somewhere to say it to you. So I'm going to say it to you, plus if I don't run out of time. So, but she hid him. She saw that he was beautiful. Now, that does not always have to mean that he's good looking. But your child ought to be beautiful to you. This is my child. And so you need to hide him or her, from things of the world. So let's look at the character. Jochebed. That was Moses' mother's name. And it implies glory of Jehovah. Jochebed. She makes a choice for her child and not Pharaoh's command. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, what my mama said was the law. It did not matter, and you better not come in talking about what somebody else's house, what they could at their house. I didn't raise them. I'm not raising them. I'm telling you. Now, so she made a choice for her child and not Pharaoh's command. I don't care what they do next door. This is my house, because Joshua's the one that said it. As for me and my house, see, my house, and you don't live there. And we had certain rules that you was over somebody's house and they get ready to eat dinner. That meant it was time for you to get up and go home. Yeah, they're going to be polite and say, would you like to have some dinner? I was taught, no ma'am, thank you. And then get up and go home. Eat your dinner at home. Oh, we don't do that now. Or sometimes the person might say, here, let me call your mother, see if it's okay if you stay over here and eat. That was the way it's done. Now we don't know where our kids are, where they're eating, what they're eating right, or no such thing. So, Jochebed chose life and not death for Moses. She wanted him because, see, he was supposed to be thrown into the Nile River. Now, when we talk about disciplining your child, understand, now listen, we're not talking about child abuse. Don't try to kill your child. Even though my mama threatened us, she said, I brought you into the world, I'll take you out of the world. Now, I was told that, and I believed it. I believed she would take me out, so I did right. But we're not talking about child abuse. We're talking about discipline your child. You don't do it in anger, because then you might do something wrong. So this is what we talk about when we say make a choice for your child and not for Pharaoh's command. We could not come in wearing a sweater. He said, where'd you get that sweater from? Because my mama knew, your mama knew what clothes you had. And you could not take or come into the house wearing something that she didn't know anything about. That's just the way it was. I know we're living in hard times, and we as a people have been ostracized, criticized. We the least, the last, the lost. And so the rent's due, the baby needs shoes, the telephone's disconnect, you're waiting for the next paycheck, all that kind of stuff. So your child comes in and got some money. And so that's the money that you could pay rent, so you turn your head. No. Sorry. Can't do it. You are the parent, and it's your responsibility to take care of the child. later in life, it will become the child's responsibility to take care of you. But that is not the time in this lesson. Well, let's move on. Infant boys were not expected to live. And Jochebed may have felt hopeless, but she still had hope. Now, here's a point to ponder. Whenever a nation or race is to be stopped or conquered, it is done first by killing male children. Now here's the question, why? Think about that. And because we see Pharaoh said, look, here, get the male boys and throw them in the Nile. If it's a daughter, let her live. You remember when the Magi came to visit Jesus, when Herod heard, and they said, we come to see him who was born King of the Jews. And when Herod wanted to know, said, look here, you come back and tell me when you found him where he is. But when Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Now, so the question is, why kill the boys? And here it is. And leave the girls. Because God had given men the responsibility of protecting the women. Woo, there it is. That's the number one responsibility of a son, a husband, a grandfather, whoever, but the male is supposed to protect the female. We got this thing all backwards. But we've been left to protect ourselves. And I'm not going to get started on that because, that's a pet peeve of mine. To say, dudes, y'all left us out here by ourselves. We got to fight for ourselves. And that's how come we as women got to fight for our children. Because guess what? Y'all not fighting for us. He made man the head of the household. And in the lesson that we looked at last week, we talked about the sister wives and the father in the house. It makes a difference when a male is in the house. And the son, because actually the son can see the father and see what he can become, and the father can look at the son and see what he once was. And the little girl looks up to her dad, because my dad, he's all of that. And so therefore, if we want to break a race or a country, get rid of the men. And the women will be easy pickings. Now, let me move on. We looked at her, let's see what we look at. We looked at the circumstances, at the character. Now let's look at her children. In spite of her circumstances, she raised 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 outstanding children. Aaron, he was the oldest. He became Israel's first high priest. Then there was Miriam. She was a gifted poetess and musician who was intimately associated with her 2 brothers in the history of Israel. And then, of course, there's Moses, who became one of the greatest national leaders and legislators the world has ever known. Now, so we need to understand that regardless of the circumstances, that we can still raise our children to be outstanding citizens. I was raised in the Carter Homes, a housing project. But I was raised in the Carter Homes. The Carter Homes was not raised in me. And there is in the difference. So here's your point to ponder. What lesson can we learn from this godly woman and mother? We can learn, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he cannot depart from it. Now, I said I was going to come back to this, and this is the part where I said I was going to come back to. You cannot expect the school to train your child. The school is there to teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. The school is not there to instill values in them. Only education, not values. Because first of all, you don't know what the teacher's values are. And we were told, I grew up at a time when they said it takes a village to train a child, which meant the people next door could tell you what to do. Now we're living in a society where you don't you say nothing to my child, and then we go over to school, as I said, with our house shoes flapping and our hair tied up, ready to point our finger and roll our neck, talking about don't you say nothing to my child. You need to deal with your child. It is not the teacher's responsibility to correct your child. They're supposed to correct 2 and 2. If you come in with 2 and 2 is 5, now they're supposed to correct. But too many teachers are expected to instill values. That's your job. Let me put it to you this way. It ain't even my job. As the teacher of Sunday school in church, I am to teach you, the parent, and you go back and teach your child. Woo! Don't get me started up in here. That's your responsibility. And the teacher is supposed to teach the father, the mother. Then you go back. It's not Dr. Cosby's responsibility to teach your child. He is to tell you. Then you go back and you teach your child. That's how come the father was like a priest in the house. Thus said the Lord. He said, fathers, here's what you do. Sit down and talk to your children. Don't aggravate your children. You talk to them. You teach them. You train them. And here we are. You wasn't called to be their friend. You called to be their parent. And there's a difference. I'm not saying you can't be a friend, but you're not their buddy. My mama wasn't my buddy. No. She could be a friend to me, but now she wasn't there to. Okay, so let me move on. Now, here's what this woman did. But when she could not hide him any longer, I'm at chapter 2, verse 3. She took a basket made of reeds and covered it with tar to make it watertight. She put the baby in it and then placed it in the tall grass at the edge of the river. The baby's sister stood some distance away to see what would happen to him. I mean, they got it together, you all. The king's daughter came down to the river to bathe. Now, while her servants walked along the bank, suddenly she noticed the basket in the tall grass. I'm telling you, God is awesome. And sent a slave woman to get it. The princess opened it and saw a baby boy. Now, he hadn't been crying, but now he's crying, and she felt sorry for him. You know, a baby crying can soften the heart of most women. Oh, poor baby. What's wrong, sugar? It just happens to us. You know, our heart goes out to him. She saw it was a Hebrew. She saw it was a Hebrew child. She knew the orders to kill all Hebrew males. But he cried. I tell you, God is awesome. He cried. And so she felt sorry for him. She said, this is one of the Hebrew babies. Then his sister, Miriam, I tell you, she's on it. She steps up and says, should I go and call a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you? She said, yes, please do. So the girl went and got the baby's own mother. And the princess told the woman, take this baby, nurse him for me, and I will pay you. Whoa, God is awesome. Not only does he save Moses, but the mama gets paid to do what she would have done without any money. So she took the baby and nursed him. Later, when the child was old enough, she took him to the king's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. She said to him, I pulled him out of the water, so I will name him Moses. Now, look at her courage. And this is what we need to do. Trust God in tough times. I don't care how bad it looks. Trust God. So she reacted in faith. It was faith and not fear that motivate these parents. And you got to have faith. Let me just go on. I'm going to hurry up because they done said it's time's up. But faith does not mean that we either know or we understand his specific purpose in our lives. Faith means that even though I don't understand, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust him and I'm going to follow him regardless of what happens. Because Romans 8:28 says, for we know all things work for good with those who love him, those whom he called according to his purpose. So we're going to have faith in God's purpose. We're going to have faith in God's plans. Because Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to bring you prosperity and not disaster. Plans to bring about the future that you hope for. That's what God says. So I got to believe in his plan and faith in God's power. Now let me say this. I got to say this real quick. It's one thing to have a general conviction about God's power. A general conviction. It's quite another to believe that God can do what seems to be completely contrary to nature. I mean, this is contrary. Namely, keep a child from crying while he is in a crocodile-infested Nile River. And parents, we need to hide our children from crocodiles and alligators and all this kind of stuff that is walking around ready to eat them alive. He is able to preserve and keep his people, even if it means violating his own natural law. Whoa, you got to get this. He will violate his own natural law just to save his people. What I mean? For the children of Israel, he parted the Red Sea. Never heard it before. He parted the Red Sea. For Joshua and the children of Israel, he rolled back the Jordan River. For Joshua, he caused the sun to stand still and prolong the day just so he could win the battle. I'm telling you, that's against God's natural law. For Elijah, he had a raven to feed him. And to redeem man, he wrapped himself in skin, implanted himself in a virgin, and was born as a man to save us. So God is sovereign. He can do whatever he needs to do. You just need to do something. What? Let go and let God. Now, I promise you, let me read this to something that I wrote 35 years ago. Faith will see you through. By faith, Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. By faith, Sarah conceived even though she was too old. By faith, Abraham looked for a city whose builder and maker was God. By faith, Moses faced Pharaoh with no weapon, just a rod. By faith, Moses and the children of Israel crossed a dry sea. By faith, the child David defeated a giant much bigger than he. By faith, Samson defeated the Philistines, though unarmed. By faith, the Hebrew boys came out of the fiery furnace unharmed. By faith, Moses and Paul and Silas were saved from the Roman jail. By faith, Elijah defeated 450 prophets and their god Baal. By faith, Ezekiel prophesied to a valley of dry bones. By faith, Isaiah saw him coming, treading the winepress alone. Woo! Say it, girl. By faith, Job served him when everything was lost. By faith, a thief was saved while dying on the cross. By faith, Daniel was saved from the lions while in the den. By faith, a woman was healed just by touching his hem. By faith, Noah built the ark and was saved from the flood. By faith, we are saved through the redemption of his blood. By faith, there is nothing in that we can't succeed. All it takes is a little faith, no bigger than a mustard seed. Faith will see you through. Yes, faith will see you through. Just believe in him is all he asks of you. For without faith, you cannot please the Lord. Just keep on believing and gain your just reward. So let go and let God. See you next week. Guess what day it is? Today